Learning often looks simple, but many people only collect information without truly understanding it. Real learning happens when you rebuild ideas in your own mind. You are not learning when you simply repeat words from a book or a video. You learn when you take an idea, break it into parts, and express it again in your own simple language. This process forces your brain to think. It stops you from being passive and makes you active. When you explain an idea in clear, everyday words, you test your own mind. You see what you truly understand and what you do not. The technique begins with rebuilding ideas in simple, personal language. Memorization looks like learning, but it is often shallow. You can remember words and still not know what they mean. Many people train their memory, not their understanding. You may repeat a page many times and recall the lines. But when you try to explain the idea in your own words, your mind goes blank. This shows that the information never became your own. It stayed on the surface. Real learning happens when you look for the idea behind the words. You ask what the material is really saying and express it in a simpler way. This technique pushes you to move from shallow memory to clear understanding. Memorization alone is weak because it does not build true understanding. A big idea can feel heavy and confusing. It may look too hard to understand. You can handle this by breaking ideas into simple parts instead of trying to grasp everything at once. When you face a complex idea, you look for its basic pieces and ask what the main parts are. You may find several parts. You take one piece at a time and put it into plain language. When one part is clear, you move on to the next. This turns a large, unclear idea into smaller, clearer ideas your mind can handle. Confusion fades because you stop dealing with a blur and start working with pieces you can describe. Clear thinking begins by reducing complex ideas into simple parts. The next step is to explain the idea in your own words. If you cannot explain something simply, you do not understand it. This is a real test. You speak or write as if explaining to someone new to the topic. You avoid complex terms and long phrases. You choose common words that a beginner could follow. When you use technical words, you explain them in plain language. As you do this, you see the parts you understand and the parts you do not. You may notice that you know a formula but not the meaning behind it. Simple language exposes the truth about your understanding. When you explain an idea in simple words, you will hit gaps. You may pause or feel unsure. These moments show exactly where your understanding is weak. You may repeat phrases from notes or not know why a part is true. You may skip a link in the reasoning. These are not failures but guides. You go back to the source at these points. You read again or ask for help. Then you return to your explanation and try again. Each gap you fill makes your understanding more solid and complete. Finding gaps guides you towards stronger understanding. Once you see the gaps, you rebuild the idea. Learning becomes a cycle. Explain, find what is missing, correct, and explain again. This turns weak knowledge into strong knowledge. You fix unclear parts, add missing steps, remove wrong links, and clean up vague phrases. You check that each sentence reflects the true meaning. You aim for a version that feels stable and clear. As you rebuild, your mind organizes the idea into a better structure. It becomes a chain where each link supports the next. The more you refine it, the more confident you become. Rebuilding the idea turns weak knowledge into strong understanding. A clear idea should work in real examples. You can test your understanding by applying ideas to simple, concrete cases. If an idea only works in theory and breaks when used, your understanding is incomplete. After you rebuild an idea in simple words, you create an easy example and apply your explanation. If it helps you handle the example, your understanding is useful and real. If it fails, you know there is still confusion. You fix the gap and test again. This makes your knowledge practical, not just verbal. Simple examples confirm whether your understanding is solid. Complex language often hides weak understanding. Long terms can create the illusion of knowledge. When you feel unsure, you may use big words to cover doubt. The technique asks you to strip away complex terms and replace them with simple, clear words. If you cannot do this, you do not fully understand the idea. By lowering language complexity, you raise clarity. You make the idea open to more people and easier for your own mind to handle. Simple words give you more energy to think, not just decode. Removing complex language exposes weak understanding and builds clarity. After you rebuild an idea in simple words, you must check it. Simplifying can distort meaning if you are careless. You compare your version with the original source. You look for parts where the meaning has changed, where details were lost, or where something extra was added. If you find differences, you adjust your explanation. You keep it simple but accurate. This keeps you from drifting into something that only sounds right. It brings clarity and accuracy together. A method becomes powerful when used often. Clear thinking becomes a habit. You can choose small ideas daily and run them through the steps. Break down, explain simply, find gaps, rebuild, and test with examples. At first, this feels slow, but it becomes faster over time. You learn to spot confusion quickly. You no longer accept half-understood ideas. You train yourself to push for clarity. This changes how you study, think, and speak. Regular practice turns the technique into a natural habit. This technique is not only for school or exams. It applies to work, decisions, conversations, and daily life. When you face a rule, system, or problem, you explain it in simple words. You break it into parts. You test with examples. You check for gaps. You refine. You gain deeper control over the things you deal with every day. This improves communication. Clear speech helps people understand you. You avoid confusion and vague talk. You bring clarity where others bring noise. The technique strengthens clear thinking in learning and daily life. In the end, this technique builds real understanding. It does not care if you can repeat fancy words. It asks whether you can explain an idea simply, use it, and rebuild it from the ground up. You stop being satisfied with shallow recall. You push yourself to make every idea your own. You break it down, explain it, find gaps, rebuild, and test. With time, your learning changes in quality. You stop carrying loose facts and instead carry solid structures you built yourself. You can rely on them because they are yours. True understanding is the final goal.